On today's Success or Excuses podcast, we have the one and only Anne Hughes. Welcome to Success Excuses podcast, Anne.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me, James.
Superb. Listen, you've got some wonderful stories and we're going to deep dive into all of them. But let's start with, who is Anne Hughes?
Well, who am I? I'm a very proud, strong Govan woman. So I come from a long line of strong women, and it's how I totally identify myself. I am a sister, a friend, a wife to a wonderful husband, and I am mum to my three gingerlings, I call them, because they've all got ginger hair. Right. So,
ginger's fashionable now.
Well, I've always loved the ginger hair. So, so that's sort of for me, and I'm off in my journey doing what fills my heart with joy. I'm very driven by my purpose and by what difference can I make in the world? Where can I have the greatest impact that keeps me on purpose?
See, I was reading your website. I read it a couple of weeks ago, and I had another wee gander last night. And you're very purpose driven.
Yes.
Tell me, how did you get? Because that's hard work to find your purpose, right? Almost comes as a buzzword, right? But when you do, you know.
Yes.
How did that come about? Tell me, give me the Anne story.
So where did my purpose come from? So I suppose I've worked in the charity sector for 27 years. Probably, I think 2010 maybe. I've always been into positive thinking stuff, right? I'm a very positive person. I work with Clifton Strengths. I have positivity at number 3. It's how I'm driven, right? So as my children would tell me, I could literally wrap a shite in glitter, you know, and be like, it's going to be good, it's going to be fine, right? So I think round about 2010, I sort of went off on another spiritual journey. And I started hearing about purpose and about what is my purpose. So I went into a real deep dive, navel gazing as my husband called it, on my purpose. I was one of my greatest teachers, Wayne Dyer. I don't know if you know him, James.
Absolutely.
So I was.
He can't be in our world and no.
Well, I've even met him.
He can't be in our world and no Wayne Dyer.
So I think I was listening to a lot of Wayne Dyer. And remember, this was before we had what we've got now, podcasts everywhere, and you know. But I managed to find lots of his stuff, and he's obviously got nearly 40 books, I think. Read lots of his stuff, and really started to identify that my purpose, which I can move sometimes, but my purpose is to empower working class women. That is my purpose. I very much identify as a working class woman. I think that working class women are some of the most entrepreneurial, successful, and you know, that real drive to make something work. And if we could actually encapsulate that, God, our country would change in a moment, right?
Unbelievable.
Right? So I really believed that, and so I started to really recognise what my purpose was. I can sort of shift that. Am I going to be empowering women, or am I going to be empowering the working class? So probably if you're a middle class man, I'm leaving you. But do you know that way?
You know everything.
But do you know that way? So I became really attached to my purpose, and because I've always worked in the charity sector, being on purpose wasn't hard, if I'm honest. Because I never pitched up on a daily basis to help a shareholder. I pitched up for a cause that I was passionate about, and I've only ever worked for causes that I feel real passion for. And so fulfilling my purpose and being on purpose is something that was very easy, I think, for me to do. So I know you started by saying it's difficult. It wasn't for me. I appreciate it can be, because I speak to lots of people about purpose and they don't really understand it. And I think, and I'm trying to explain it to them, and it's like, well, it's being a good mum. No, that's not your purpose, you know. And it's like, you know, going on about, so what is your purpose? What drives you?
Some people find it difficult, but
they do.
I mean, they really find that word really difficult.
So I suppose for me, being on purpose happened quite smoothly, and I've managed to maintain that. And even now, I know we're going to talk about what I do, but I work with lots of different people now, lots of different organisations, and if I'm speaking to somebody and I'm thinking my reaction to what they want me to do, or who they are, or what they're doing, doesn't have me on purpose, then I'm like, I don't have capacity, but I'll find you somebody that does.
Aye.
And I'll always find them somebody else to do the work. And it's not coming from a judgmental place, it's coming from a real deep knowing that if I'm not on purpose, then I'm sort of a wasting my days.
Absolutely.
And we don't know how many of them we've got.
And it's hard. See when you're trying to do something. And by the way, we'll go to the kind of start of the journey and the starting of being an entrepreneur and all that as well. But what I found when I first moved into this world of leadership development, I actually did it for the same reason, for the purpose. Because I was coming back to the UK. I lived abroad for 24 years and I was coming back to the UK and I was meeting my mates and it was the same story over and over again and just and poor me and I'm like, I didn't realise how some people, particularly working class, really limit themselves because the society tells them this is kind of as good as it gets. And that was my reason for coming back and setting up this company. My purpose was, I want to provide world-class training and development, right? No matter your background or your budget. That's it. That was my purpose of starting this business. And that's driven me the whole time. And see, any time, and the reason I'm going down this road is, see, any time you go off purpose, it feels like it's just really hard graft. Doesn't it?
It does. It does. And I think just like what you're saying about finding people, and especially the working class, and they're not on purpose, and I think it suits the ruling classes for the working class not to be on purpose, and therefore it's not encouraged. It's not encouraged. So I see that as a huge part of me and what my journey in the world is. And, you know, it's funny, and I said this to you before we started, I had obviously been invited to come on your podcast and stuff, and I'm thinking, I'm not an entrepreneur. And I was saying to one of my friends the other day about coming on this, and she was like, well, you sort of are, Anne. So it's interesting that I do have my own consultancy. I've been doing that for over 7 years now, but I never saw myself as an entrepreneur. That probably comes from class too.
Of course.
That I didn't want to take that label.
Of course.
So it's quite interesting.
And so entrepreneurship for me is someone who is willing to put themselves out there, right? Do stuff, doesn't matter what it is, that other people are not willing to do in a business format or in a career format. We take risks. We do things like putting yourself out in a podcast. I mean, that's entrepreneurial. I call it the entrepreneurial mindset. It's like we don't really have limitations. We don't really understand that barrier. We just do it. Like we just do it and we go, wow, that didn't work. Okay, what have I learned? And then then we try something else. That to me is entrepreneurship. And I think any business, anyone who runs a consultancy has went through that.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it.
Exactly.
And then you go, like going back to what you said about the purpose, working with clients, generally at the start of the journey, you work with anybody, right? Because you're like, all right, I need to make money at this. I've just decided this is now my life. And then once you actually really understand, because I think the journey is also here inside, right? That entrepreneur, that purpose, right? It's an internal journey. And you realise that I actually don't like working with people like this, and I don't like working with people like that. And I think you can tell after a few conversations whether you think I'm going to be able to work with this person or not. Would you agree?
I would, and I would say, and I'm an accidental consultant, I'm an accidental entrepreneur. It was never in my plan to work for myself. I would have been too risk averse pre-2017. And then in 2017, I had a brain aneurysm, so just stood up from stood up to get my dinner. My kids were 2, 8 and 13.
Wow.
Got a pain behind my eye, sort of a, shit hit the fan. So I'm in a coma for 9 days, and my husband's told that I'm probably not going to survive and whatever. Obviously I did, right?
Absolutely, obviously.
Obviously I did. And I got most of it back. I'm a wee bit forgetful sometimes, but I've got good hacks. I'm good at hiding it. So I made it back, and I went back to work probably in the August. Still wasn't thinking. I was very driven by, I'd lost my fear, so I'd lost any fear. And I had became very driven by things I wanted to do. Like I was going at 1,000,000 miles an hour. If we talk about ideation, I was having hundreds of ideas. Like my best friends were continually having me on the phone, sort of running out of breath. I'm talking so fast, right? Yeah. And so I became this person that just wanted, I think it was all in there before, but I
Did that
wasn't.
lead, is that because of what happened? Is it that,
Undoubtedly.
shit, I've only got one life and I'm going to get an absolute belter?
Well, it was a dual thing, if I'm dead honest with you. So I get back to my life. I probably go, so that was the February. I start going back to work in August, fully back into work in January.
This is 2017,
So 2017 into 2018. And I'm being manic because I'm wanting to do all this stuff. I start, one of my best things I've done, I start a radio show on Sunny Govan Radio because I'm from Govan. So, so that was great. Interview format. So I did a lot of them, like 160 odds of them. And
that must have been great for your confidence and all that as well, though.
Confidence has never been a problem for me, I'll be honest. I'm the youngest. I'm the youngest of a family, so confidence has never been an issue for me. But so I started doing that. I started writing a column every Sunday for Glasgow Live. It was Ignite Sunday Wisdom because my company's called Anne Hughes Ignite. But in line with me doing all this and being really driven and having passion for the cause I was working for at the time, I had an arsehole of a boss. And that is why I became a consultant, theoretically, because I could no longer. He was quite a wee guy. I started wearing high shoes to work. Now, you know, I've just come in here, I'm 5'10". I don't like wearing high shoes, but then every time he spoke to me, I would stone up, so he had to look up at me. And I was like, my feet were killing me, right?
I love it.
I get to him this day and I'm like, I can't do this anymore, my feet are killing me. So, a really bad boss, and also
my feet are too sore forcing this arsehole to look up at me.
I know. So,
Sorry,
you know,
arsehole.
went from being a really good supportive boss to being awful and really try to bully me. Again, we'll go back to, I'm a strong Govan woman. I'm the youngest of a big family. I've got 55 first cousins,
you know when
right?
somebody's ripping the pish.
People, I've never been bullied in my life, and we're no starting now, pal. We're no starting at the age of 41.
There was ever bullied at school, like never, ever. I just didn't allow it to come into my, like, it just wasn't happening.
Aye, exactly. I think when you've got a big personality as well, and you're funny and stuff, it probably, I think, makes people a wee bit more from you. But anyway, so I goes back to work and this is happening. In the process of being coming back to work, I decided I needed a mentor and I asked somebody who's really influential within the charity sector, because that's where my career's been, to be my mentor. I would never have been brave enough to ask her. I did know her, but I would never have been brave enough to ask her. So I send her an email. She comes back to me within 7 minutes and says, delighted, let's meet up, right? So the day that I literally get home and throw the high heels in the bin, I get a text that night, and I've got an opportunity for you if you get time for a call tomorrow. And it was my first bit of freelance work, which started the following week.
Wow.
Right? So I actually walked out of a job, and the following week I was working again, getting paid a day rate, working 2 days. They offered me 5 days, and I says, oh no, for what they wanted me to do, I was like, it's not about the number of days I do it, it's about how long I do it. 2 days a week will be enough. Now they were willing to pay me 5 days, and she works for a philanthropist, so he was the one that was his organisation that was paying me. They offered me 5 days, and I said 2 will be enough. And I think that was a bit more like, oh, right, she only wants 2 and we would have paid her 5. So all of a sudden, working 2 days a week on a freelance rate, I was earning the same as I had been earning in a full-time job.
Wow.
And that's how it started for me. So it started by accident, and I didn't really mean it.
So 2018 was when it kind of kicked off.
Yeah.
What's the journey been like, right? Now, the reason I ask this question is, I don't know if this is your story. I'm sure you're going to let me know. Most females I speak to, right, in the kind of, whether it's business world, self-development world, they have a tougher time. Have you experienced that? No. Go and talk.
I mean, maybe people have reacted differently to me. I don't know, because I'm a woman. It's been lost on me. I've always had work. I suppose, and I've been listening to your other podcast, and you say, when did you know that you definitely wanted to stay on the path? And that was probably, I was very lucky to be able to go and see Michelle Obama speak in Edinburgh.
Right.
And do you remember when Tom Hunter did that event in Edinburgh and Michelle Obama was speaking at it? And I was working for that one organisation. I was working for 2 days a week. And that was brilliant, right? Hearing her speak and getting her knowledge and her wisdom, especially at that time where I'm still recovering from a brain journey. I've started my new journey. And somebody that I know very well, I've known my whole career, who leads a charity that I know very well and love and still do lots of work for, said to me, I've got a job going as director of fundraising. you going to apply for it, Anne? Like, you know, are you going to apply for it, Anne?
Come on.
And I was like, under no circumstances. And that was only months into me being freelance. And then, see, the day I walked out and threw the high heels in the bin, I would have jumped at the opportunity, but I knew, no, I'm onto something different here.
Yeah.
I'm onto something different. And so that was that. I just went on. And
that's an unusual journey, by the way, because most entrepreneurs or business owners, consultants that I speak to, it's a long haul to get those first, few years before they actually I mean, my own story. I mean, I was 2.5 years in and I was nearly on Mars.
No, I was making more money in my first year as an entrepreneur than I did as a salary before I stopped. Definitely. And I was very tied into that. And I think, you've talked about working with people you want to work with and all that. That probably took me a while. Probably have in those 7.5 years worked for a few people I didn't like. But when I realised, or I didn't get, if people confuse me, I'm not working with them, because I'm not a daft woman. If you're confusing me, then there's something going on with you that I don't want to have a part of. So if you're confusing me, I've literally sat in calls, calls about pitching for work, and halfway through the call says, look, I've just realised I don't have capacity for this. For them, it must be quite odd, because I just realised, actually, I don't want to work with you, so I'm not going to do that. But I think the freedom that doing that is, so, I was a fundraiser for many years, so now I do a lot of fundraising strategy work and things like that for charities, but I also do interim leadership for charities. But over on the side, I thought that I had 2 parallel lines running till literally the last week, if I'm honest with you, James, right? I think I've got 2 parallel lines. I had thought I wanted to write a book and I wanted to be an Oprah. I wrote the book. I didn't get to Oprah. I maybe went half Oprah because she just did go to Jeff Bezos' wedding.
Fair enough.
Aye, so maybe I don't want to meet Oprah, and I definitely don't want to go to America, right? So that was running. I wanted to do some TV stuff. I've done some TV stuff. I did a few series of, it was called The People's News when the new BBC Scotland channel launched, and it was like Gogglebox, but we were talking about news and current affairs. Yeah. So I did 2 seasons of that. I'm a regular contributor on BBC Radio Scotland, so they phone me most weeks to see if I've got an opinion to add to whatever it is they're talking about. I can't always do it because obviously I sell my days as such. And I'm sort of up until very this week or last week, I was thinking that these were 2 different journeys I was on. And I've realised that I've maybe been getting that wrong, and actually maybe I just need to put it all together and see what shows up next for me. So a bit of consultancy that I've been doing for the last couple of years, never meant to stay that long, and as an interim leader we're interviewing just now. I was interviewing last night for the replacement because it's time for me to move on. But I've got no lack. And what's interesting to me is that I've got no lack, because as a working class woman growing up in poverty, in real poverty.
I was the same, by the way. And I mean, see, a lot of people confuse working class, right? Working class is when you had nothing, right? Because I have a guest on here and they're like, yeah, working class background, and you dig a bit deep and you're like, oh, no really.
No.
So, not really. I had 3 sisters and I had hand-me-downs. That's working class.
So that way, growing up in a scheme, just everything that comes with that. My dad worked in the shipbuilding but got made redundant when I think I was 3 or 4. I was the youngest. But, and my mum died when I was a kid. My mum died when I was 13. So to experience that and have a lack mentality, it was as if that, I often think about how your neural pathways and all that, and because there was so much blood flooded into my brain, because that's what an aneurysm is, obviously at that burst, I think all my neural pathways got messed up, so they had to all relay, and I never let the lack one relay. And so literally I always have opportunities and I always have work. So it was so funny. So literally on Tuesday I paid my July payment to HMRC, as you need to. I think we should pay taxes, but it's tough when you have to send your money to
I've got 17 staff.
Oh, right, so yeah, it's tougher
and
for you.
And they're all full-time employees, and they're all like 40 grand plus.
Right, so you're definitely paying them better than me. And I literally paid it, right? And then I was going into a call. I went into that call and got offered another bit of work to last for the rest of the year, 2 days a week.
That's amazing,
and I'm just like, that doesn't surprise me.
So your abundance mindset, basically, it's going to come. I don't know where, I don't know how.
There's plenty of work out there. Why would it not come to me? I'm good at what I do.
Exactly, my mindset. Exactly. So, abundance mindset on a particular path. where's it? Where does it? What's next? Because I know you do motivational talks, and tell me a wee bit about what you actually do. Go and dive into that.
It was funny. I remember one of my pals told me in the early days of it, Annie, I think you've got a portfolio career. That's what they call it now. So I do a bit of everything, and that is why I have to stay freelance, because it's up to me when I work, who I work for, and what I do. Right, and I always work. My terms and conditions are always 14 days notice for you or me, because if you don't want me to work with you, I don't want to do it for any more than a fortnight, and if I don't want to work with you, I don't want to do it for any more than a fortnight, right? So
and that's it.
That's
I'm
it.
the same. Our T's and C's are all exactly the same.
So now what do I do? So I do speaking events. I've started, this has been interesting, I do a lot of work with teams in the culture and organisations, and I think everybody has got this impression of what the charity sector's like, and the charity sector's great, and I'm glad so many wonderful people work in it, and I love being a part of it, but obviously they do still have these problems. So I work with the Gallup Strengths, and so I'm very tied into all of that. So I've had this thought quite often, could I take that into the private sector maybe? And I'm always quite intrigued, because do you know Gallup Strengths, James?
No.
Right, because some of the ones that there's 34 innate strengths, right? It's based on positive psychology, but
is it like a psychometric type?
You sort of answer all the questions, and then
I
you
built
get
my own one.
Oh well, fancy. And can I hide money? And
well, I never hired somebody to build it.
Exactly, you can't hide money. And I'm quite intrigued, because in the third sector we've got lots of empathy, we've got lots of that's one of the strengths. We've got lots of very touchy-feely strengths, and I'm often like, I wonder
Makes a great leader.
I wonder what it must be like in the private sector. You know that, because it must be different.
It is different.
The influence,
it's all private sector,
the influence and strengths, and I've got 3 of them in my top 5, and it's like sort of all of them in my top 12, apart from competition. I don't have competition. And that in the charity sector is what people are always wanting a bit more of on their team, especially in fundraising, and we struggle to get that. And I thought, if you were doing this for a private company, if you were doing this for a car sales company, it would just be full of competition, it'd be full of influencing. So I'm dead intrigued by that. I wrote a book, which I forgot to bring up, and they're in the car as well, James.
Just on that note, well, you see that? I've got one for you too, so that's for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So yeah, and I do speaking, I do work with teams, I do coaching, usually with leaders, or usually with women, I have to say, that are sort of just struggling there. But some of that with the organisations that I do a lot, there's a few organisations that I've worked with since I went. I do work with them every year, really. And it's almost been because me as an external can sort of help them get somebody to see that it's time for them to move on.
I've got a question for you. I'm thinking about what you were talking about there in the charity sector. I've never worked in the charity sector. Is that quite a female oriented? Like, is it more females in that sector, or is it a good mix? Because seeing public sector, private, it's very male dominated industries. Like most of them are very male dominated. And that's a tough gig, especially because I'm big in empowering women as well, so that's why I thought we'd be a great guest, because I'm right into that, and it's a different kind of challenge.
I think, what would I say about that? So I was a fundraiser for 20 years, and I do a lot of work with the Chartered Institute of Fundraising and stuff like that, right? Fundraiser is dominated by women, I would say. Not completely, but I would say it's probably 70% women. Yep. I'm sure there's a stat, but I don't have it on me. Charity sector on a whole, no, and this is where it becomes quite interesting. Don't know if I want to dive into it in case my charity contacts hear it, but charity leaders are mostly men, and we obviously, within the charity sector, our governance, we have to have a board, and board chairs are mostly men.
That's bonkers. I mean, I'm going to put it right out there, right? I have worked with senior females, right? And what they bring to the table, a man cannot bring. Like, we cannot. I talk about this a lot, right? And scientifically, right, our brains are the same. A man and a woman's brains are the same. We're scientifically the same. But we don't think the same, we don't act the same. A lot of people say, it's down to nurture. I believe it's down to the chemical imbalances. A man's getting more testosterone, so we're more likely to take risk. A female, not so much. And there's, when they're going through their menstrual cycle, and not so when people say, I always have this problem, right, with people saying about equality, right? A man and a woman in the same workplace being equal. They're not equal. because you've still got to go home and feed the kids, and you've still got to do all the mummy things, but you've still got to go and be that same. When a man does, in general, I don't want men to think, no, I get home and I feed the kids. In general, right, a woman has a much tougher gig in any working environment, in my opinion.
I mean, I think, not to pull you up, but I think like to assume that I need to get home the night is feed my kids, that's part of the problem.
But no everybody, but generally I'm talking about in a general sense. Maybe no for you, but okay, so our biggest programme, right, is Women in Leadership, right? That's our biggest programme. It's about 40% of our revenue. We've probably trained 300-400 women in the last couple of years, right? And we interview them. And the biggest thing that comes out is a lack of equality. It's the, like, when I had my Wayne was up all sick and I went into the office and I had a meeting and I couldn't focus and I was getting looked down at and they're like, they don't understand. I hate to keep going on about men because it is, a lot of the problems is how men perceive females' workplace. And that might not be your story, but in general,
it is a general story.
It's a tougher gig.
It is. No, I agree, and I'll circle back to my pal Michelle Obama, who I seen in 2018.
Your pal now, is it?
It was actually like 7 years ago. The other day.
The universe,
it was 7 years ago the other day because it came up my Facebook memories, and she talked about this, that women need to have a seat at the table.
Absolutely,
because it changes the conversation.
100%.
And she was urging us within that talk that she did that day. She was urging that when you get invited to share your opinion, then you need to share it. Don't sit thinking, should I say it or should I not say
Just
it?
say it.
Just say it.
Yeah.
Just be at the table, and when you're invited to speak, you speak. And you speak your truth, because chances are other people won't see it. And I think for me that has become really, really important that I'm at the table. And sometimes not so much in the charity stuff I do, but when I try to do some other stuff, and the table is full of, middle class men, middle class white men, and I've now got my way of work on it, because what I'll get a lot, and we speak a similar way. Yeah, I'm clearly working class. You can understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
I get a lot of that. Sorry, what did you say? Sorry, could you slow down a bit? And where I've got to be all that is, when I approach yous are all sitting there, and yous are just wee boys and yous are a wee bit scared. Because yous knew how you got here. You got here because your dad got you here.
Yeah.
You're thinking, how did that working class woman get here? She must have got here in her own merit.
Some graft.
She get here in her own merit.
She put in some graft.
So I just I can have even compassion for people that are saying to me, sorry, can you slow down? Sorry, what did you say? Even though it drives me insane. It drives me insane. But
I'm going to go to another place, right? So this is one of the findings with interviewing so I interviewed about 60 to 70 really senior females working in a male-dominated environment, right? For part of one of the programmes that I was building. And one of the things that came out of the conversation was, not all of them, but a high percentage, was they believed that to get to the top, they had to act like men. Aggressive, talk down to people, and almost every one of them who had that characteristic to get to the top said it was their biggest regret, was taking on that trying to take on that meal. Because remember, see, if you don't see somebody up above who has characteristics and traits to model, it's very difficult. You need to go externally, whether it's books or Michelle Obama or conferences. You need to go externally to try and find those role models. And in a lot of male-dominated environments, they're just not there.
I know.
So their influence is that, I'm going to say very reluctantly say leaders, but those managers, senior management team, right? Because a leader, you would never feel like that anyway.
Aye.
Because in my opinion, a true leader has got oodles of empathy.
Yeah.
It is dripping at them. It's all about you. It's not about me.
Aye.
It's all about you. And they're obviously taking on those traits and characteristics, what they've seen in that journey. And I was like, wow.
I think I'd be interested.
I never
to
knew.
know, was that women like ages with me or you?
Ages with us, aye.
Right, so where I'm taking that back to, because
Ages with
I
us.
will never get tired bashing this. I think Thatcher's got a lot to do with that.
Aye, do you think?
I think Thatcher's got a lot to do with that. And it's interesting because I would follow on social media and stuff lots of empowering pages, right? Social media is nice for me. I follow so many good people that I think I feel empowered after I've done it. Anybody ever quotes Margaret Thatcher, obviously I need to block them, they're gone, right? But I think, like, we talked about her being a women leader who acted completely like a man.
Absolutely.
And that was the example for people of our age and older. Sure. That was the example of a woman in power. So no wonder women got it wrong.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And then when I look at, so I spent a long time in the oil and gas sector, which was very male dominated, but they flipped the switch very quick. You know, when or maybe, okay, we'll say outside America, right? The US, it has changed a lot, but it was an American company I worked for, and they started to promote females within the business, and the boardrooms became a completely different environment. It was fun, it was encouraging, it was a different conversation, and that's a big part of who I am today, is because I got to experience pure male dominated environment. I lived in Saudi Arabia, right? Worked for an American oil gas in Saudi. It was all men. Yeah. Right? In Saudi at that time, it's different now. The females were in a separate room, locked room. No females, none. No senior females, nothing. And then I moved to Dubai, same company, and I started to slowly see, and all of a sudden we're getting more females. And I don't mean more females like more HR, and I mean actually females coming through that were operations, that were sales, that were, you know, generally the roles that you automatically assumed was a male role in our industry, in the oil and gas industry at the time. And then when I was in Dubai, I was in an HR role, right? So I went for operations, engineer, operations, HR. The reason that they gave me an HR role was to kind of, what was it like they call it, to polish the rough diamond, right? Because I'm just a Glasgow boy, right? That's it. I am what I am. I talk the way I talk. You know, what you see is what you get, and I'm really straightforward. And they thought I was quite brash with the way that I sometimes get across, because I just don't accept bullshit. Like I just don't. Like success or excuses. I've had this all my whole life. Yeah. Anyway, and I was in charge of building the Baker Hughes experience, it was called, and it was interviewing young engineers, right? So we had this big drive in the Middle East to try and bring in more local engineers, like Dubai's, Lebanese, local females. And during that, it was a 2-day event, right? And during this Baker Hughes experience, so it was a mix of males and females, and part of it was part of the scoring was in their GPA. Right, that was a part of the score. But I said, I don't believe that how good you are at remembering shit should matter how good you're going to be as a future leader. Anyway, I'm digressing there. So we had a room of, let's say, 40 young engineers. So they've studied engineering in some form, electrical, something at uni. And they've come into the Baker Hughes experience 2-day event. And the first day was all kind of problem solving and things like that. And then what we did is they thought they were finished at 6 o'clock at night. We're like, we'll all have dinner. And then I would go wake them up and say, the rig has went on fire, right? And I put them in teams and I says, we need to solve the problem. And that was absolutely blew me away. The females in general, right, outperformed the young male engineers. And I hired nearly every single one of them, and nearly every single one of those females that we hired are all now senior. That blew me away. Like, I was like, wow. So my point I was getting at is my lived experience was, my God, do we need more females in the boardrooms? We need more females, senior leadership teams. I mean, if we are going to accelerate, let's say talk Scotland, right? If we're going to accelerate our growth, we really, really need to take it serious.
Yeah, I think we do.
Really take it serious.
And how do we bring everybody with us? And I think then when you have the difficulties that women live in and poverty are experiencing, and I talk about that in terms of my mum was the oldest of 10. She was the dux of the school, but had to leave school at 15 to get a job because she was the oldest of 10.
My mum was exactly the same.
And so that's why often, like when I'm doing anything, I think about my mother and my grandmothers all for Govan. my two grandmothers both had 10 children, and I just think the opportunities that I've got, the opportunities that my daughters have got, they could never have dreamed. They could never have dreamed.
So we're making progress.
They didn't know what a podcast was, obviously, but they could never have dreamed that people would.
What do you think your mammy would be saying if she's seen you now on a podcast? She'd probably thinking, what the hell?
I don't know. It's so interesting, James, because my mum died when I was 13, right? And so my memories are very, very fuzzy, obviously. I don't know, because I knew she was a really strong woman. Like she was a strong woman, as in she would batter somebody, right? Do you know what I mean? She would lamp somebody.
She didn't take any shite, basically.
None whatsoever. And recently I've had this real contemplation. I wonder what my relationship, because I'm very, like, obviously I've got my two older sisters. Like, one of them's got their own law firm, the other one's an academic, had her PhD, she's a doctor. And like, they're really strong women as well. I'm probably a bit wilder, a bit less tamed than them.
Guilty
and I honestly think, like, I wonder what my relationship with my mother would have been like, and I wonder what kind of person I would have been had I had this real overbearing matriarch in my life.
Yeah.
So I don't know,
Right,
is the simple answer. I'm sure she must be very, very proud of us.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, because me
She's
and
like
my sisters have
strong
achieved
women.
so much. You know, I talked about how I've got 55 first cousins. Me and my two sisters, and then one of my other cousins now, were the only people to ever go to university. Of all those folk, and the first people in all our families to ever go to university. And so you think, like, the opportunities that we had, you know, my mum would have dreamed cleaning a lawyer's office. My sister's got her own law firm. My daughter's just became a lawyer. She'll inherit that law firm. I mean, I've never inherited anything in my life, you know. Like, you know, it was just yesterday.
Oh, I know.
I was invited. Like, I couldn't go on because I was going to work, but to go on to Radio Scotland the other day to talk about pensions, right? And obviously you're maybe better financially set up than me, and I couldn't go on because I was going into meetings and stuff. But I've had this conversation on there in the past anyway, where I've said, well, no, I don't have a pension because people I know didn't live old enough to retire.
Aye, that's right. Well, my papa died at 54. You know, my mum died just a few years ago. My dad's still, I mean, he's 73 and he's fighting. I mean, I don't know, I think he's getting in his 90s. You know,
but you know, that way it's this expectation about how you manage your life. And I remember having this discussion with this guy that had set his life up to retire at 46, and I was a bit like, well, what's your impact in the world going to be? How will you be driven? What? Why would you want to do that? I don't ever see there being, I love what I do.
Yeah.
I don't ever see there being a time where I'll just pack it all away.
I'm the same.
I wonder if that's a class thing.
I can never. And by the way, that's also one of the reasons that I decided to come back and start, because I thought I want to do something for me where I get to choose and I'm in control, because I'm one of those personalities, and I could never imagine retirement. Like, I could imagine taking a bit. I mean, I have took quite a big step back because I've got a brilliant team and I've got a wife who actually runs the business, because we co-founded it together, and I have took a big step back, and sometimes I think I'm like sometimes I feel like I'm not really doing a lot anymore. Do you know that way? But I'm still the one that creates everything. Aye. I'm still the ideas guy. I'm still, you know, but I've now got a team, and I sometimes feel like, in fact, I was a post I read on LinkedIn. I actually replied to what's his name? I can't remember. He runs a boiler company in Edinburgh, and he was saying the same on a post on LinkedIn, and he'd said, sometimes I feel like I'm twiddling my thumbs. And I says, oh my God, I feel the same. I said, there's some days I'm sitting in front of that lap and I'm like, what am I going to do today? But I still work 5 or 6 days a week.
Aye.
Sometimes 7.
Aye. I think there's something about us realising, because the other day I was in a call with 2 people and we were talking about something that I'm going to be working on, and I asked this question. And for me, it was a very obvious question to ask. And they were both like really clever people that really know their stuff, know what they're doing better than I know what they're doing. But my impact on them was like, oh no, you're totally right, and we hadn't thought about that. And I think there's something about us undermining that. I wasn't just having the one conversation with them. It wasn't just a 90-minute call. It was 27 years experience in a 90-minute call.
Absolutely.
And that's what I say I bring whenever I go anywhere. I don't just bring Anne Hughes. I bring Anne Hughes with all the experience I've got.
Yeah.
And being able to help with strategy, being able to see like see the trees for the wood, because I think people in the middle of problems often can't see the problem. They can't see their way out. Whereas if I go in and I look at you, then I can help them see their way out. Working with people that don't see their own uniqueness, that own spark that they've got, and they think I'm just the same as everybody else. Well, actually, you're not. We've all got something that's a really unique offering.
Absolutely.
How
and
do
it's
we
your
pull
life's
that
experience.
out?
But some people are terrified to tell their story and to show that. I want to talk about something. So recently, this is about culture inside a business, right? And something that you'll really relate to. So last year it was late last year, and it was a company, I won't mention any company names, but it was a very big company based down just outside London. And they wanted to run one of our leadership programmes. And it was all signed off, but the MD had the kind of final say. So managing director had the CEO. The CEO had the final say. And he was an Irish guy. I can say that, can I? I can say that. He's an Irish guy. And I've obviously got a sales team, and I don't really do the calls any longer. And I said, give him my number. I'll set a call up with him, and I'll walk him through the unpack, the outcomes, the expectations, so that it's fully aligned, it's bespoke to his company. Anyway, I got on the phone with this guy, and he was completely oblivious to his own company. He's like, no, we don't need leadership training, our company's culture's brilliant. And then I remember I'd already spoke to the HR director who asked us to come in, and she is like, so I called her after it, and she's like, the culture in this company is diabolical. The leadership team are do as I say, not as I do. She says, I can't understand how there's such a disconnect. I mean, that blew me away.
And I think that disconnect happens a lot. And I think, and I see that probably in the charity sector as well, and interesting in some organisations when people get too far away from the cause, then that's challenging. And I think people think that everybody that works in the charity sector is doing it for fun, for pastime. And I think that's probably how it started, the role of fundraiser. I mean, I think I was at something a few years ago and somebody says the roots of charity are actually found in racism. It's found in us as God in Britain was. I'm not counting myself in it. Going in going to other countries and basically just colonising them and taking them over, and then they were suffering. So all right, we better do something for it. But it takes more than that to make a successful company. And I'm such a big believer, even in the teams that I manage and things like that. See, if I can't have them on the page with me, if I can't get them on the page with me, then nothing else is going to go well. You can have all the strategies in the world.
They don't work if the culture's shit anyway.
But nothing's going to work if you don't have your people bought into what you're doing.
How do you do that, right? How do you get them to buy in? There's a great question for you.
So I think that is the buy-in, and it's funny because I'm doing interviews just now for one of the organisations I'm doing work for, and that buy-in, and just, I'm putting forward 6 people to go to the board for interview and I was like, they are all bought into the cause. And some of the people that we did the first interviews with who had the experience undoubtedly, but they didn't really talk about the cause. And so having buy-in to a cause within charity sector is probably something that I would put more emphasis on than something in the private sector.
Yeah.
Because can you get buy-in to a piping company? I don't know. I don't know, right? Because I've never interviewed MD for a piping company. But can I get your passion for this cause? Can I hear it pouring out of you about the passion about this cause? And when you can hear that, I always say that, and this I especially say in fundraising, but people buy people. So people buy me every day of the week before they buy what I'm selling them.
Absolutely.
Right? So
including your internal teams.
And so there's something about that real authenticity and what I talk about. I have to be passionate about it. I'll know when people approach me for bits of work, I'll think, especially if it was fundraising work, which I don't do so much anymore, but I wouldn't be able to sell that with a straight face. I wouldn't be able to sell that with authenticity. And I've had that juggle sometimes. Can I do that? Is that the right cause for me? And I have that real question myself, am I on purpose when I work with this organisation? And I'm glad to say that, I'm always on purpose, or I wouldn't be doing the work. I probably wouldn't even be having the call. And I'm all right with that. I'm all right. I would rather not have work than have the wrong work. And that's not because I'm sitting on noodles of money. It's because I know that the right work is going to come along.
I absolutely love it. So I want to go back to the buy-in. So what I found in my experience in the business world and being a leader in that is, I'm going to go back to the buy-in. how do you get buy-in, right? How do you build the culture of, because a leader should not do everything, right? As you're, you know, and this is how I see the world. A leader is all about developing the people that's in their, you know, kind of influence, their sphere of influence. It's about developing them. And how I always get buy-in is by empowering them. And how we teach leaders to really grow and develop their team, their business, is to empower at every single level. And we run a program, right? And we say to teams, what's your vision? And they'll go, oh, the company vision. No. What's your vision for your team? What does that look like? Nobody's ever asked me that before. So how do you build? How do you manage and lead the team if you're not all aligned? Do you know the vision? No. Like their company vision? No, I don't understand
Most people
it.
don't do. And
I'm like I'm a huge big vision person, right? And it goes back to that abundance. And you know, if you can see into the future in your mind, and you can create a picture, and you can feel it, and you can live it, and you can breathe it, it's almost like it's like a superpower. It's like it just bounces off all the shite, or the negativity, or the, you know, people talk about social media, and I just don't see a lot of the negativity, because I'm away in a different I'm away up here vibrating in a different level. I mean, my brain is going I'm away, and I don't see a lot of it. Even negativity and posts and things like that, I just, you know, I've got a character, you like me or you don't, and I'm alright with that.
This is exactly what I always say, and I think that part of that entrepreneurial journey and picking who I work with, I have got a really big personality, you know, and if that's not right for your company, that's all right. You know, there's 8 billion people on the planet. I don't like everybody either, and you can't expect anybody to like everybody. And I want to work with people that want what I bring, which is an awful lot of honesty. Sometimes people really struggle with that. I would say especially middle class white men. They do. They really struggle with, and therefore they would try to use that as something against me. So let's just not do this tango then. I don't want you to not want me to be honest. You know, and I recently had a conversation with somebody, and it clearly we did not resonate, right? And I thought, it's okay, I don't want the bit of work, because if he can't take what I'm telling him in meeting one, then do you think 7 weeks down the line of doing the work, he's going to be enjoying what I'm telling him?
Absolutely.
So maybe he didn't want authenticity the way I was delivering it.
Absolutely. Right? Or they thought they knew better. I find that sometimes they think they know better than you, and you're like, well, this is kind of what I've been doing for the last 20 odd years.
No, I'm open to other people. I'm actually very open to other people knowing better than me.
Absolutely.
But what I know really well.
As long as it's justified.
But let's have the conversation with a restorative approach. We're having the conversation to fix the problem. We're not having the conversation for me to be right or you to be right.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
And when somebody wants to do that, I'm like, well, I'd rather that we just didn't. I would rather we just didn't.
Here's another question, just as you were talking there. The difference we work in, because you don't always know that it's a good fit, right, until you actually work with them. See the difference, this is personally, the difference between working with a company who has got somebody in their business, like the leader, the CEO, the MD, who gets it, who really gets leadership and management and understands the power, a well-trained, mindset group of people, versus somebody who's not really bought into what you're doing. They're kind of just like, I need to really tick a few boxes. I mean, it is almost day and night. I absolutely love working with companies where the senior team are completely bought in. One particular company, we've been working for 2.5 years. We've trained hundreds of their staff now. And they first came to us because they'd bought a lot of companies, and they came to us and they're like we're a bit disfragmented and we need some leadership training, and it was really about getting us all together and talking. So that was the kind of remit. And managing director, his whole 17 of his leadership, this is $1 billion company, 17 of his leadership team were all in the programme together. And then every single one of them brought us in for their teams and for their teams, because of the power of actually understanding how this stuff actually works, how culture actually works, how leadership works, what is a good manager and a good leader, what's an in the box, what's a functional manager. See when they understand that and you see the penny drop, it was just like, wow.
It is. And I think the danger is that too many people think they're good leaders and they're really not. And there's where we have the real problem.
I'm doing a talk in CPD London, and that's the start of my conversation.
And I see this in the charity sector with governance and leadership, that people think because they're passionate about it that everything they say is coming from a good place, where actually I actually want to like put a sack over your head and drag you out when you're speaking to my team because you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
You're not doing it right. But within the roles that I'm often in, that isn't going to be workable, right?
Yeah.
So that's okay. So it's time for me to move along.
Aye.
And that's all right, because if I do interim work, I'm not meant to be there forever. Do you know that way?
Absolutely.
But it's interesting that people see that their impact is huge and their impact is actually quite destructive. And I actually don't know. So there's you asked me, how do you instill that? I think it's difficult sometimes.
It's very difficult.
Especially at a governance level. Mm-hmm. It's very, very difficult for people to understand that you're not doing, this isn't the way we should be doing it. You're getting it wrong. Because, and I know that their intention is good.
Absolutely.
I know that
That's
they
why they're in the
have
roles.
passion.
Aye.
I also know that it's probably part of their purpose to do this, especially in governance, because remember, governance and charity doesn't get paid.
Yeah.
So I know that they're doing this because that's part of their purpose. But actually, how do you get them to step back and realise? And I don't know the answer, James. So I'm posing the problem for people to have a wee bit more reflection on that.
Sure.
You know, and people who, funny when you're doing interviews, and obviously I'm within the role that I'm interviewing for, fundraising will be a huge part of it, which has been quite not easy for me, but it's not, you know, I know how to do it, so it's fine. And when I'm asking other people about that don't have the experience, and so obviously they're not coming forward, and they're really good characters, I think they'd be good leaders, but they don't understand that aspect. In third sector, you need to be able to wear a lot of hats. Yeah. And then they come up with ideas that they think are quite exciting ideas, but actually that's not going to work. That's not going to bring us in the amount of money we need.
That's experience.
And so there's that naivety in that section. I think we get a lot of that naivety. Oh, this is a really good idea. Let's do this. This is a really good partnership. Let's partner with them. Actually, why do they want to partner with us? Is there some whitewashing going on here? You know, are they wanting to just make themselves look good? Should we partner with them? Because the value of partnering with us is big, you know, and so making sure that you get those fits right. And that's sometimes that takes a strong leader that really understands. And I would say it takes a wider team that really, really understands why they're there. They know the vision, they know the goals, they know exactly what the values of this organisation are, and everybody's living by it. Yeah. And I heard of somebody who said, well, whatever. Sadly, because you wouldn't want anybody to get sacked after 2 weeks in a job. But somebody who lost their job after 2 weeks because they just went in with a really bad attitude. And 7 of the staff complained. And the MD
probably
obviously
dictatorial.
It was.
Rather than actually asking the team, what do you think we should do different?
Moaned a lot. I was shocked that somebody would behave in the way that I heard this person had behaved in a new job, because it would never be how I would behave. But what I thought about that organisation was the culture, that 7 people felt that they could complain. Yeah. And then that the MD listened to them and went to act on it, went to speak to the person who continued in the same tone with the MD. And he said, do you know something? Pack your bag and go just now. You know? And I think that shows a good organisation for me.
Absolutely.
For that person that lost their job, well, there's a big lesson. You're on a big curve there. You're learning about how you show out in the world, obviously. But I'm so impressed that the MD listened to his staff and then said, right, okay, I'll deal with it. And then when he tried to deal with it, was getting the same shit. And then said, right, so just leave, just go. Absolutely. You don't fit here.
But if he'd allowed that to go any longer, and I totally agree, by the way, that is what a company it must be to work for, if that's how it is in there. But that's a tough gig as well. To make tough decisions like that. But I also, through personal experience of building my own businesses, I've held on to people way longer than I should have. And because I was always thinking, I've spent all this time training them and they bring this value, until they're no longer there, and you're like, why did I wait this long? Do you know that? Why did I wait this long? And then I beat myself up for it, but I always learn. I beat myself up for, I shouldn't have done that. So see now, see if people don't fit into our culture, values more importantly rather than culture, if they don't fit into our values, It's done. They're done. They're gone. They're that's it.
And that's what I sort of, I suppose we're similar, aren't we? Because we're clearly both like buzzing, we're positive, we're all about like, how can we get the best thing happening, right? So we're vibrating, as you've said, on this energy. I suppose what I've realised on my journey is that no everybody can, no everybody wants to. Some people see us totally. I'm sure you're also in that camp of you're a bit too much. And you're like, all right, go and find less. On you go. I invite you. I invite you.
And I'm okay.
I'll be fine. But I can't get those people. I find it challenging that anybody would go into a job and just moan for 2 weeks and make the staff and the team feel really, really bad. And I'm like, so I can't understand you, but I'm not going to waste my time trying to understand you. I'm just not going to work with you.
Yeah, totally.
Because we can't solve all the problems, can we?
No, I can't.
And I mean, maybe when you're doing your leadership training, you need to take them on that. But within the work that I'm doing, certainly I just want to keep working with people that want to work with me.
Aye. Absolutely.
Doing work that I really want to do.
What a great place to be. Right. On that, we're getting to the end of the podcast. I ask all my guests this, their top 3 pieces of advice. Now, whether it's a leader, a manager, or a company, or a business, or a person, want to start a consultancy, what's your 3 top pieces of advice in life? So
mine in life, oh gosh.
Life, business.
In life. Well, and my consultancy, because some of my friends have went freelance and then changed their mind and they've always been like, Anne, I'm not as good at selling myself as you. I can't do it. It's too much risk.
You need to be able to sell yourself.
And so for me, I have always prioritised my network. Right, so 2 of the main pieces of work I get are from leaders and their organisations. I work for both of them. Every single year I'll get some work with them. And I have known them since I first started out in my career. Yeah. I've known them for 20 plus years. Right? And they also...
So your network within the industry that you like to work with?
They recommend me to people all the time. Their recommendations, because they are very well respected within the sector, always come very high. So there's something about always prioritising your network.
Yeah, love
Be visible, speak to people. Don't fall out with anybody because you don't know when they'll come round again.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a really important bit of advice. Another one for me in terms of my business is every time I have a conversation with somebody, if I see that there's something I could add, I could bring value to their organisation, I will always follow it up with a proposal. I will always, we were talking the other day, it'd be great to meet you for coffee. I've put some ideas together that I think would work for you. Now, sometimes people don't get back to me, or we meet for the coffee but nothing else happens.
Yeah, that's all right.
Sometimes it'll be 2 years after I've sent them it. Yeah. That just come up again for me, Anne, and I thought I needed to phone you and speak to you about that.
Absolutely.
So there's something about being that, that thing. And then the third thing I'm going to tell you is, because I've got a podcast where I've asked 198 women from all over the world now, what do you know for sure? So I'm going to tell you what I know for sure. Right, so that's not a business one, right? So what I know for sure is that nothing's personal. Yeah. The way other people behave, the things they do, the things they say, is all about what's going on with them. It's not about me.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So if I'm not taking it personal,
their problem, not my problem.
Aye, you see all that shitty energy that you just brought into me, pal, you can keep it, it's not mine, I'm not taking it for you.
Absolutely.
Right?
I love that.
So I don't take things personally. I think that could be, I've had a brain injury and I've got a wee bit of brain damage. So I don't really take things personally.
I believe you've always been like that.
I don't know I was as good at it as I used to be. I think I'm better at it now, but I really don't take things personally. If somebody doesn't like me, that's fine. I don't like everybody either. But if somebody is very offended by what I'm saying, or they're accusating something at me, I'm all right with saying that's what you've got going on with you, and you're projecting it onto me, and you're making me the source of your problem, and that's a shame that you can't see that. And so I think that and in business that obviously does as well.
Of course it does.
Don't take stuff personally, because I don't think it's personal. If I don't get a piece of work, if I don't resonate with somebody and we don't get the piece, that's all right. It's not about
it's not the right
Anne
customer
Hughes.
client for you then.
Aye.
That's how I always look at it. Well, isn't it for us? They'll come back.
And I've got my people, do you know what I mean? I've got my husband, who I've been with for nearly 30 years. I've got my kids, I've got my big sisters, and I've got a wonderful group of pals, because there's nothing like nearly dying to know who your pals are, James.
Absolutely.
So I'm all right with them being my people. I'm not here to make pals.
Aye.
I'll make pals every day of the week because it's who I am, but that's not why I'm here, so I don't need you to like me.
Aye. I love it. Absolutely. Listen, Anne, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming along.
Oh, thanks for
And by the
inviting
way,
me.
this is probably one of the longest podcasts I've done so far, because we could talk forever.
Well, I know.
See, when you've got a personality like this, and it's somebody that you can vibe off of and you get the energy for it, you could just talk. I mean, we're closing off, but I was at a meeting yesterday, right? A Glasgow University had asked me to go and do some talks to their entrepreneur students, and this was an hour meeting. 2.5 hours later, and we hadn't even set the meeting agenda. We just blathered.
Thank God I didn't have another appointment after that, and I was in it.
My wife was, because we're early risers, so she's phoned me saying, by the way, I've got your dinner ready. Like, when are you coming home? I'm like, oh, I'm really sorry, I'll be home the night. An hour's meeting, 2.5 hours, and we hadn't even, we did before we left set the, right, okay, these are the dates. But I just love that easy flow.
And this takes me back to my point. Why would I work with people that have not got that flow way when there's plenty of people out there I'll have the flow way? So let's go and work with them. That's going to be better for us.
Absolutely. And you have a bigger impact as well.
Yeah, exactly.
How does people get in contact with you? Now, it will be on the podcast and all that.
Yeah, just Anne Hughes Ignite. I actually did a wee Google chat GTP about me, or GPT about me the other day. I was very impressed with what it said, so that was good. So just have a look for me. And I'm a woman of many talents, so if you need a bit of this energy in your company, come and find me. Aye.
As I said, absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you for inviting me, James.
Thank you. And that's a wrap.
Perfect. That was great.